Hey, this is Ren Smith. So it's 2017, and fans of the UNC Wilmington basketball team, the Seahawks, they're just devastated.
Let's get straight to our top story. Everyone is talking about Coach Kevin Keatts. And yes, his name is still trending on Twitter ever since the news broke that the Seahawks coach is leaving his CAA championship winning team. John Redelman has been following the team all season long and joins us now with live in the studio with an update to the devastating news for Seahawk fans everywhere. Hi, John.
Amanda, yes, it is morning time now, and Kevin Keatts spent most of the evening on Friday in Wilmington, but he is about to put the Port City in his rearview mirror as he begins the process of moving up Interstate 40 to Raleigh, and it has been a whirlwind 24 hours or so for head coach Kevin Keatts.
In essence, Keats had been offered a better, more lucrative position by NC State.
Pretty much he just came in and told us he was proud of us, and he really got an offer he couldn't refuse. And as much as he doesn't want to lead a program, he thought it was best for his family. And most of us agreed, pretty much everybody did. It's tough. I mean, I hate to see it, especially for the guys that's staying here. I'm happy for him.
In the same broadcast, then assistant coach Takayo Siddle recalled how, at the team meeting, he tried to lend demoralized players some perspective. Things change.
And I think after talking with those guys got a better understanding of the situation. I think those guys are happy for him. I think they're still upset and a little shocked. And I tell them all the time, change is inevitable.
And let's hope the shock will wear off, and change is certainly inevitable when you are successful. And that was Takayo Siddle a bit earlier. He's been named, by the way, the interim head basketball coach now for the UNCW Seahawks.
Fast forward to March 2025, and it all looked as though it would happen again. Here's Siddle at a March press conference.
Yeah, we had a great year. 24-7, 14-4. We finished second place, obviously. We've done some really good things this year, and I think we've built a really solid resume.
Siddle, now permanent head coach, had produced 5 winning seasons, and his contract was up. Surely, with all the success, history would repeat it. There was some kind of sweetheart deal coming from a larger university. Just like with Coach Keatts, Coach Siddle wouldn't be able to refuse. Except this time, when that offer came, to everyone's surprise, it came from UNCW. A 5-year extension on Siddle's contract, full of the kind of bonuses that would keep him in Wilmington. But exactly how did the university manage it? How did it break the cycle and outbid its competitors this time? The answer would seem to come down to a new kind of MVP in North Carolina sports betting. Today, we talk to someone who can explain. I'm Ren Smith, and this is Shoresides, where we tell stories about the North Carolina coast.
My name is Steve Bittenbender. I'm a writer and analyst for betcarolina.com, and I am based out of Louisville, Kentucky. I've been a journalist now for going on 30 years. My dream was to be a sports writer. I've done some sports writing over the years, and a few years ago, I came upon an opportunity with a website called casino.org. They were looking for a sports betting writer, and in 2023, I started with gambling.com, a North Carolina-based company that runs several websites. That includes Bet Carolina. And I cover sports betting legislation and regulation, and I also do some sports writing for them. Let's start with the basics. Sports betting is something that's been around probably since the beginning of sports themselves. And you're going to find people that are doing it for a multitude of reasons. They will do it to back their team, most cases. But I've found that when teams are going through slumps or teams aren't having great years, you will see fans bet against their team just because they know they're more likely to lose than they are to win.
In 2018, the Supreme Court let states legalize sports gambling. Today, nearly 40 states have it. Apps like FanDuel and DraftKings pay states a tax. In North Carolina, it's 18%.
And North Carolina uses it for a multitude of reasons, one of which is providing funding for several public universities' athletic departments.
That money isn't heading to private basketball giants like Duke, at least not yet.
And it was for the smaller Division One and Division Two state universities. So, like UNC Wilmington, Charlotte, East Carolina, Appalachian State, those schools. Western Carolina is another one. They were looking to improve facilities or bolster coaching salaries. And that would appear to be the case here in Wilmington, where you've got a very good basketball coach. And obviously, it is in smaller schools, the way that college athletics goes. If you do well at a smaller school, you'll attract attention from larger schools. And smaller universities understand that, but at the same time, they want to try to keep their coaching staff, their players also for as long as possible. Basically, this funding will enable them to entice their coaches and potentially their players to stay there longer. And it appears that Wilmington will try to use some of their money to keep Coach Siddle around for longer.
But recently, things got even more dramatic. North Carolina sports betting tax doubled projections. Places like UNCW got even more money than expected.
And I think it's important to note here that when sports betting first became legal and when it was passed 2 years ago, the projection was that the state would reap about 65 million or so in sports betting taxes for the first year. In actuality, what happened was it basically got double that. It got about 100 and I think it was about 127, 128 million in sports betting tax revenue.
That's when members of the North Carolina Senate got an idea. If taxing 18% worked, why not 36%? And also, why not include some of the state's larger universities?
So right now, there is a debate going on within the North Carolina legislature. The Senate, when it passed its version of the budget earlier this year, voted to double the sports betting tax rate from 18 to 36%. And when it did that, it allocated a lot more money for college sports programs and also incorporated University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and NC State, the state's two flagship public universities, into the mix. They had previously not been eligible for funding. The House, when it passed its version of the budget, they included funding for University of North Carolina and NC State, but kept the state tax at 18%.
Steve says that with all the sports gambling tax funding, schools like UNC and NC State could end up getting closer to, say, joining the Big Ten.
And it is possible that as there's adjustments up at the top of the ladder, there will be some movement below it. Eventually, could a school like UNC Wilmington make it to a conference like the Sun Belt or Conference USA, which is not necessarily a big conference, but it is a bigger conference than the CAA? That would be a possibility. What's fun about sports betting, and I will say that I've been gambling for most of my life. I did it with friends of mine in high school and college growing up, and there's a casino right across the river from me here in Louisville. I'd go there from time to play blackjack and some of the table games there, and I would still bet sports with some of my buddies. like during a weekly poker game or so forth. We'd make bets about a game we were watching. It's meant to be a supplement to watching sports, and that it helps keep interest, especially if you're watching a football game on Monday night and it's involving two teams that you don't know. Betting on a team is a way to increase engagement.
The problem is, Steve will admit that it's tough for people to both bet and win.
Sportsbooks will tell you, and their proponents will tell you, that sports betting is a form of entertainment, just like going to the casino. And in a way, they are correct. At the same time, this is a way to make money. And for a small, minute percentage of people, it's profitable for them. I'd say probably 5% of all sports bettors across the country are make money doing this. And part of the reason is it's hard to do. You're looking at best, if you're betting point spreads, that usually is about a 50-50 proposition. Half the time, you're likely to be on the losing end of a bet. And in order to be profitable, you need to be somewhere around 56%. You need to win about 56% of your bets. What's the Malcolm Gladwell line? I think it's 10,000 hours to become an expert at something. It's probably that and maybe more to become an expert at sports betting. And a lot of us don't have that kind of time. Some people, they're into analytics, they're very mathematically inclined, and they can spot odds that may be beneficial to them.
For others, it gets much darker.
The rate now, I believe, is about 3% of individuals are considered problem gamblers. By that, they have an addiction or they have other behaviors such as betting more than they actually have, or making larger bets than they should. The 3% or so develop those kind of behaviors, which of course can be detrimental, not just to them, but to their families, to their businesses, to their communities. And the states have worked to ensure that there's money for problem gambling funding, education, and programming to help make people aware of the programs, make people aware of the dangers of sports betting, and make them aware that there's help available in North Carolina and across the country. That's actually, I think, been a positive about the legalization of sports betting, because when it was all done by offshore sports books that weren't regulated by states, or was done, and it still is, by local bookies, they don't care necessarily how much you bet. They're not going to worry that you're betting too much. So they're not going to give you the 1-800-GAMBLER number.
We reached out to the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services for their perspective on sports betting. While they were unavailable for an interview, they did send a statement, and it emphasized that their focus is on prevention and responsible gambling. The department also noted that an additional $2 million has been allocated to combat problem gambling in North Carolina, and it shared some recent data from the NC Problem Gambling Helpline. That data shows that since sports gambling was legalized here, calls have roughly doubled, and that New Hanover County, where UNCW is located, is among the top 10 counties for callers seeking help.
Those helplines and those resources have received more calls. And you can look at it two ways. Yes, it is an issue that there are more people calling these numbers, but at the same time, more people are now aware of the resources that are available. And is it great that there are people that have problems with this? It's not. It is an issue, just like it is with alcohol or tobacco or even just online spending in general, you can develop problem behaviors. But just the actual promotion of the programs I see as a good sign. And I think as sports betting becomes more popular and gains more acceptance, I hope we see maybe not necessarily a reduction in the amount of problem gaming behavior. It stays at that 3% figure. I don't think they're ever going to get down to zero. I just don't think that's possible. But if you're able to mitigate it, improve awareness, improve education, then that will help people and it'll help communities in the long run. And that's what I think the biggest thing about legalization has been, is that it will provide that information for the people that need it.
So in summary, North Carolina sports betting tax revenue, it's a bit of a quandary. It means better trading rooms, higher salaries, maybe even a ticket to a bigger conference. But it has real stakes. For every dollar of funding, there's someone on the other end chasing a win that may never come. This is Shoresides, and I'm Bryn Smith. Thanks for joining us. If you or someone you know might be developing a problem, please know that free, confidential, and compassionate help is available. Call or text the North Carolina Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-877-718-5543.
Thanks to Steve Bittenbender for his expert insight, and to the North Carolina Problem Gambling Program for their vital work and resources. To learn more about our reporting, please visit our website at shoresides.org. Thanks for listening.